Okay, let's start with the t-test now. We already know this question. We have solved this question theoretically. So I just uh, taken this for the convenience. So here, the average IQ is 100 of population, average IQ is 100. A team of researcher wants to test a new medication. Okay, now the sample mean here is 140. Sample standard deviation is 20 and sample size is 30. The question is basically कि population का average IQ है 100 but एक team of researchers कहती है कि हमने एक medication introduce करी है जिससे कि वो intelligence level बढ़ा देगी. ठीक है, so उसका test हुआ 30 sample participants पे. So actual mean निकल के आया 140. Now we will see. If you remember, we did different types of t-test: sample versus population, sample versus sample. So sample t-test. This is an example of there is a population claim and we want to test through a sample. So our null hypothesis is the medication has no effect. Okay. So mu is equals to 100. Alternate hypothesis says वो रिसर्चर्स ने क्या कहा कि हम कलेक्ट करेंगे डेटा और उस डेटा को जब टेस्ट किया गया तो उससे 140 निकल के आया. सो व्हाई वी हैव टू अप्लाई टी टेस्ट हियर? द क्वेश्चन इज, first of all, the first filter is we see whether the population standard deviation is given or not. Here the standard population standard deviation is not given, so we will apply t test. Now, the formula which we, so this, the way which we did earlier, we are doing with the same way. First, first step is formulating the hypothesis. Alternate null hypothesis we discussed. Alternative hypothesis is that medication does affect. So mean cannot remain 100. It will be different from 100. If it will come on the negative region, rejection region, we will say it has harmful effects. If it comes under the right side rejection region, we can say it has positive effects. Or if it comes in the acceptance region, we will say that we cannot reject null hypothesis and medication has no effect. Okay, let us start. Second is uh, decision boundary. If you remember, we did this decision boundary in the theoretical part, which said t value instead of z value, we had calculated t value, and our t value came out to be 2.045, and here it was negative 2.045. So we compare this value with this is the critical value. We will compare this value with the calculated one. And if it falls in the accepted region, we say uh, the null hypothesis is accepted, or we generally say we fail to reject the null hypothesis. If it falls in rejection region, we say we reject the null hypothesis. Now, how did this came? At 95% interval, the only thing which is different here from z-test is the degree of freedom is required. So degree of freedom we have discussed there. This value can come from the table as well as we can calculate it in Excel also. So T critical value वो होती है जिसे हम कंपेयर करते हैं. ये 2.05 और 2.05 माइनस और T critical value, this is equals to T dot inverse probability. If it is 95%, confidence level is 95%, significance level is 5%. And if it is two-tail test, it will be divided into two parts, 0.25 and 0.25. So I can write probability to be 0.975, 97.5%. And degree of freedom, I remember it is n minus 1, so 30 minus 1 is 29. It is coming out to be 2.05. Okay. So now हमारी t calculated value निकाल लेते हैं. t calculated value निकालने के लिए same way we have x bar minus mu divided by, now we don't have standard deviation of population, so we write standard deviation of sample raised to the under root of n. Let us calculate numerator. Numerator is equals to x bar is 140, which is sample mean. Mu is 100, which is population mean. So this is numerator. Denominator, S standard deviation is 20 equals to 20 divided by square root of sample size is 30. This is our denominator. T calculated value is numerator divided by denominator. If you remember, it was the same 10.96. Now, since this 10.96, what do you think? Where does it fall? Does it fall in the rejection region or in the acceptance region? 10 is beyond 2, right? So since it is beyond 2, it is falling in the rejection region. और हम reject क्या करते हैं? Null hypothesis. So what conclusion can we draw? We can say, since this t value, this value, sorry, the formula was applied there, so it cannot, I'm just writing below this, since this is less than, हमारा decision rule क्या था कि -2.05 से कम या 2.05 से ज्यादा अगर आएगी तो हम रिजेक्ट कर देंगे. So since it is greater than 2.045, we reject the null hypothesis. और null hypothesis को reject करने का मतलब we are accepting the null hypothesis, alternate hypothesis, and alternate hypothesis क्या कहता है that medication has effect on intelligence, and since it is coming on the right side, we can say it has positive effect on intelligence level. Okay. Similarly, if the critical value, sorry, if the confidence level is 80%, you can calculate accordingly. Let us see the next question, where a Maruti company claims that its Ertiga car delivers an average mileage of 20 km per hour. So to verify this claim, a user recorded the mileage of 18 cars under the real driving conditions, and the mileage came out to be these. Now, we want to check whether the claim of the company is right or not. So what is our null hypothesis? Our null hypothesis would be that mileage is mu is equal to 20 kilometers per hour. And what will be the alternate hypothesis? Alternate hypothesis would be mileage is not equal to 20 kilometers per hour. per hour, or or it is if it is on if the question says it is less, so it can be one tail test. Right now it is two tailed test because the researcher claims it can be higher or it can be lower. So it's a two tailed test. Now, what do we do here? We go to data. If uh, after going to data, there is a data analysis tab. We click on it, and when you click data analysis, you will find so many tests here. So here we want to calculate t-test of. Now, if you see t-test, all are coming out to be two samples or paired samples. If you remember, we discussed about three types of tests. One is when we compare sample with the population. So this is the same case. Another is we when we compare sample with the sample, and then there we have two samples. But right now we just have one sample. So how will we apply this test? Let us make one dummy variable. After that, we can delete it. If, so what I'm going, if this data analysis is not showing in the data tab, you can go to options, and then there will be an option of add-ins, and then data analysis you can add from there. Data analysis. So we are using t-test to sample assuming equal variances. So now in this t-test, there is an assumption that variances of the two groups should be equal. So we are assuming that we fulfill that condition and we are using that test. Okay. It says variable one range. Variable one is this. I'm, I'm selecting this. Okay. Then variable two range, I will click on this. Variable two is my dummy variable. I'm choosing this. Okay. Hypothesized mean difference is 0 only. हम कह रहे हैं कि mean difference means कि null hypothesis भी से कि sample का mean और उसका mean जो है वो same है, right? So it is 0. Labels को okay कर दिया because मैंने observed mileage और dummy भी choose किया था. Rows means labels means headings. Alpha we are checking at 5% significance level. Output range is where I want my output to be displayed. Okay, I chose this cell. We can choose new worksheet. We can choose the same worksheet or any particular cell reference we can give. Okay, so we got this results. Now t-test 2 sample. Okay, first we will correct this because here we were using one sample and this dummy variable we can delete now. Just give me a moment. Let us see mean of the sample is 14.79. Variance observations are 18. Pooled variance, we don't look into these things right now. Hypothesized, we put it at 0. Degree of freedom, we know this is n minus 1. We have 19 observations. Okay, so it is taking one this. Okay. T statistic. Now, T statistics means T calculated value. The calculated value of t is coming out to be 58. P value for one tail, t value for one tail, p value for two tail, t critical value for two tail. Let us understand this, how we interpret. First, look at this t statistic. This is t calculated value. Okay. So like we were calculating it from the formula x bar minus mu divided by. So this is that value. Now, since our test was two tail, so there are two critical values, t critical one tail, t critical two tail. So since our test was two tail, so I will compare this value with this one. Okay. Now, T critical value says 2.10. That means it says that the boundaries are, this is 2 point, critical value means the value with which we compare 2.100, and here it is minus 2.100. Now our calculated value, which is 58, is way beyond this 2 value of 2.1. So we can say that our value is falling in the, our calculated value is falling in the rejection region. So we reject the null hypothesis. And when we reject the null hypothesis, we, we say the claim of alternative hypothesis is true, that the mileage of Ertiga car is actually not 20, it is way beyond. It is different from 20 kilometers, since our results support this. Okay. Now look at the p value now. Now p value one tail and p value two tail. We will look at the p value two tail. Now here it is only shows one value, because the value with which we have to compare we already know, that is significance value, which is 5%, 0.05 alpha. So this p value says 6.187. Okay, this value is not clearly given here. It says minus 22, which means 10 raised to the power 22. So in this question, you might not be able to understand completely this p value, but you can understand from this way that this value is very, very less, almost equivalent to 0%. So it is falling, it is less than 5%. 5% is significant value. So 5% से बहुत कम है, तो हम कहेंगे we reject the null hypothesis. Okay, and our conclusion will remain same. Okay, let's understand this question, another question on t-test. A professor wants to check if there is a significant difference in test scores between students who attended a revision class and those who did not. So here we are talking about two samples. So if you remember, we talked about two independent samples, urban population versus rural population, or average salary package of CA students versus MBA students. So this is on the basis of that concept. So here we are trying to test whether the students who attended the revision session, are they better off or not? So null hypothesis says that there is no difference, significant difference. रिविजन सेशन का कोई इतना इफेक्ट नहीं है. सो म्यू ऑफ ए मीन्स ए इज द ग्रुप this of students who have attended the revision sessions. B is a group who have not attended. So null hypothesis says there is no difference. Alternate hypothesis says there is a significant difference in test scores. So let us see whether there is a difference or not. Again, the same way we have to test, we have to apply t-test. We will go under data tab, data analysis, to sample assuming t-test, to sample assuming equal variances. Okay. Variable 1 is this. It has already been selected. I'm selecting the heading also. Okay. Again, I will click on variable 2 range. I will click on this and I will select this portion. Okay. Hypothesized mean difference is 0. I will just explain you how it is 0. UA is equal to UB लिखा है ना, mu A is equals to mu B. So mu A minus mu B is equals to 0. So हम मानते हैं कि difference दोनों में नहीं है, इसलिए हम 0 कहते हैं. Okay. Labels okay. Alpha we want to check it at 5% significance level. Here we can easily change 2%, 1%, 10%, whatever we want. Output range, for example, I want it to be where has my previous results. It was here. Yes. Sorry. We were on the third question, right? Okay. In data tab, data analysis, two sample, assuming equal. I don't know why it is going towards that way. Okay, this range we had already put. Now I wanted this. I want to be in this cell. Okay. Okay. Okay, now I got the results. So the mean of those who have attended is 83. Those who have not attended is 71. So this is the statistics which we have got. First, we will look at the t value. T value is जो हम कैलकुलेट करते हैं वो आई हमारी 5.6 और हमारा टेस्ट था टू टेल टेस्ट और इसकी क्रिटिकल वैल्यू जो हम टेबल से देखते हैं वो है 2.17 टू टेल की. So let us see, let us interpret this. Calculated value is 5.6. Okay, now two tail critical value is 2.17. So here it is 2.17 Here it should be minus 2.17 and 5.60 lies in this region again, rejection region. So reject किसको करना है? Null hypothesis को. Null hypothesis कह रहा था कि there is no difference in test scores between students who attended and those who did not. That means we have sufficient evidence to say that revision classes or revision sessions have effect on the performance of students or on the scores of students. Okay, let me write this. Since this value is greater than critical value of 2.17 and it falls in the rejection region beyond this, so we reject the null hypothesis and say we have significant evidence, statistically significant difference appears in the two groups. Okay, now next is p value. Now how do we see p value? P value two tail, we will look. It is coming out to be 0.000, which is less than 0.05 significance level. The significance 0.05 means again it is going in the rejection region. 5% से कम है. That means there is very less probability of saying कि null hypothesis true है. So again we reject the null hypothesis on the basis of p value also. Okay. Now, let us look at the last type of T test where we talked about pre or post. Between an if there's some there happens some event, we collect the data from the same sample pre uh, and post that event. For example, this dietitian wants to test the effectiveness of a new low carb diet plan. So she records the weight in kg of 12 patients before and after following the diet for 6 weeks. So same sample है before और बीच में event क्या है? Diet follow करी और after ये weight हुआ. So now we want to see whether there is a significant difference on the patient's weight or not at 5% significance level. Now the null hypothesis would be there is no significant difference. Diet से कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. UD means we are saying population. U is population mean. So average जो पहले डाइट ले रहे थे वो उसका significant difference नहीं था कुछ भी. मतलब पहले वाली situation as in. So it is equal to 0. But alternative hypothesis says there is a significant difference. Dietitian says. So इसमें हम कह रहे हैं UD should be greater than 0. Greater than 0 means ज़्यादा significant reduction होगा. So since this is होगा, जितना already है status quo उससे कम होगा. So that means this is one tail test. डाइट से बढ़ भी सकता है और कम भी हो सकता है, ऐसा नहीं कहा. इसलिए हम टू टेल नहीं कह रहे. हम क्या कह रहे हैं? वन टेल. Let us go to the data tab again. Data analysis. Now we'll see two test paired two sample for means. Paired two sample for means. Okay. Variable one is before diet. Variable two is this diet. labels okay, alpha significance level 0.5, output I want it to be here. Let me press OK. Now we have the results with us. Let us look at the results. Okay. It says we have these things. You can look. These are the statistics which they have given for our data. Now, T statistic. आंसर क्या है इसका? 29. और ये वन टेल टेस्ट था. सो वन टेल की क्रिटिकल वैल्यू देखेंगे. वन टेल की क्रिटिकल वैल्यू है 1.79. ओके. एंड टी स्टैटिस्टिक आया है 29. बहुत ज्यादा है उससे. सो वन टेल. Let me draw it for you again. How can we understand that? Sorry. Critical value of one tail test is 1.79. So our critical value is 1.79 since it's a one tail test, and the calculated value is 29. So it is way beyond this point. So it is in the rejection region. Rejection region says we reject the null hypothesis. और null hypothesis था क्या? वो कहता था कि डाइट का कोई इफेक्ट नहीं है. There is no significant difference in patient's weight. So we reject this. We say we have sufficient evidence to prove that there is a significant reduction in weight after following the diet plan. Okay. Now let us come to the another conclusion through p-value. P-value through one tail is 4.81. Again, it is minus 12. So it is very, very 10 raised to the power minus 12. So it is very, very less. I mean, almost equal to 0.0001%. So which is again less than significant value. We are looking at this value. Again, this is less than alpha, less than value of alpha, which is significant, 0.05. So we can say we reject the null hypothesis, and this is also less than critical value of 1.79. So on the basis of this, we say we reject null hypothesis. Okay. And if the t statistic value would have been, for example, 1.3, t वैल्यू अगर हमारी 1.3 होती, so 1.3 का मतलब, सॉरी यहाँ पे आना था ग्रेटर देन क्रिटिकल वैल्यू. ये 1.3 होती है हमारी लेस देन 1.79. मतलब towards the left side of the rejection region, which is acceptance region. तो तब हम कहते हैं कि null hypothesis, we fail to reject the null hypothesis that डाइट हैज नो सिग्निफिकेंट डिफरेंस इन पेशेंट वेट्स। सिमिलरली ये हमेशा एक दूसरे को सपोर्ट करेंगी, अलग अलग कभी नहीं आएगी। पी वैल्यू अगर हमारी आती फॉर एग्जाम्पल 0.07, 0.75, 0.075, which is 7.5%, and 7.5% is more than 5%. So मतलब 5% से ज्यादा है, तो इसका मतलब हम उसको नल हाइपोथेसिस को एक्सेप्ट कर सकते हैं। वी फेल टू रिजेक्ट द नल हाइपोथेसिस। सिंपल फंडा एक पी वैल्यू का ये समझ लेना, दिस इज पी वैल्यू। फॉर पी वैल्यू आई एम explaining you. There is a cutoff, and the cutoff is 0.05, जो हम कैलकुलेट कर रहे हैं वैल्यू, पी वैल्यू, अगर तो इस कट ऑफ से नीचे आती है तो हम नल हाइपोथेसिस रिजेक्ट करते हैं कि 5% से भी कम चांसेस हैं हमारा क्लेम जो है वो सही हो। ठीक है, अगर इस कट ऑफ के ऊपर आती है 0.5%, 0.5 से ऊपर आए, दैट मीन्स हम नल हाइपोथेसिस को एक्सेप्ट करेंगे। ठीक है, एज सिंपल एज दैट। स्केल लेना, 0.5 से नीचे तो रिजेक्ट, 0.5 से ऊपर तो एक्सेप्ट। So that is it from my side regarding t-tests.